So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:04. Can I get someone to make a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I so move.
I'll second it.
Thank you. It was Leslie and... All right. All those that approve the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay. Agenda's been approved. We're going to move on to communications with parents, citizens, and staff. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to us? Hearing none, we'll move on. What are those other two? Can't make this any bigger.
Oh, the other two items.
Yeah.
It's Read AI meeting.
It's from the Zoom thing.
Interesting.
So after that is consent agenda.
No, the two things that are right there under...
September reach out report and board reach out communications.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we don't have any of those. All right, moving on. Consent agenda. For all those new board members, remember I told you when we had our meeting 2 weeks ago that the consent agenda is something that I don't ask you if you want to pull something off usually. So if you want something pulled off, you need to ask now. So this is your one and only opportunity to do so.
Sorry, I haven't checked. Is the library thing on the consent agenda?
I'm looking. No, it is.
No, it is not. No, because we're bringing it back to RNESU
Okay.
and at the next meeting.
Okay.
We have to figure out what ours is before we can bring it back to Otter Valley.
Sorry, yeah.
No, that's okay. I knew what you were talking about, though. Yay me. Okay, so can I get someone to approve the consent agenda then?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, Francesca, is there a second?
Fernando.
I'll second it.
Fernanda. Did I do that again? Sorry. All
That's okay. Everybody does Francesca.
Alright.
I don't know why.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I must have another persona.
right. All those that approve the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, consent agenda passes. Our next thing is something in blue.
It is the Vermont Educational,
Quality standards?
the AQS VSBA
Sorry,
presentation.
I got my eyes dilated earlier today and I can't see anything, so I'm sorry. So that's why I keep going, what? And I can't make it any bigger on my phone. So, all right, well then let's move for you to do that.
Okay, the overview of the board's role in
There you
educational
go,
quality
yes.
standards.
Take it away, Renee.
Okay, let me get back on the right thing. Read AI is going to be very comedic.
For us to
Yeah,
see.
sorry.
Sorry, that's funny. Let's see, share.
We can't see what's attached because it needs request
Oh,
for
okay.
viewing.
Sorry about that.
I had that too.
The
see if
first one.
it's-
The second one we can see.
Second one you can see.
Yeah, the EOS presentation we can.
Okay. Let me.
Do we all have to request it? Or
No,
we make
what I
it-
can do is if you give me a second, I can. Oh, here, let me stop share real quick.
Yeah, the other ones are good.
Oh, hold on. That's funny. Okay.
We are good now.
Okay.
General access, good to go.
Should be good now.
Yeah.
So what I did was I combined the first slide with the slides that are necessary from the second presentation, and so that way we just go through one fairly quickly. So let me get back to sharing. Goodness. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this first part of the presentation is just a quick summary of the educational quality standards that were updated by the Act 1 working group. The Act 1 working group was tasked by the legislature to update the educational quality standards so that they would be able to be rolled out to districts and to the superintendents for July 1, 2025. So the goals of the new EQS standards, and if you're unfamiliar, the educational quality standards are really kind of the playbook for school districts when it comes to what you need to have in place in order to serve students. So it gives us information about like our continuous improvement plan. It gives us an idea on class sizes, how we're supposed to measure things. And so what they did in order to update it is that they wanted us to make sure that what we're providing for our students is to make sure that they have access to educational opportunities that are substantially equal in quality, equitable and anti-racist, culturally responsive, and are anti-discriminatory and inclusive. One of the things that I think was and I could talk about it for a long time, but I won't, is that very first bullet about substantially equal in quality. And I think you'll see that in our board, in the board presentation that comes later, is just really trying to understand when it comes to implementing the global ends, the superintendent can have an interpretation of what needs to be equal in quality, but the advice from the board is also going to be incredibly important, what substantially equal in quality truly means.
Can I interrupt you already?
Sure.
That's a statewide goal?
What?
It's,
Usually, yeah.
It's a statewide law.
So, what does that mean when, Chittenden County has bigger labs and higher SAT scores and, newer facilities than we do in other more rural places?
So then then I have to come to you and say, do we want to be equal in quality? Do we want to be substantially equal in quality to what Chittenden County has? And if we do, then we need a roadmap to get there.
And that's our responsibility. It's not.
I mean, I could
go
do
to
it.
the state and say we need
Right.
$75 million to, for.
We can definitely ask them for it, but that's one of those things that we have to. There's not really a baseline in quality because we barely even know what the state is asking us to produce in terms of outcomes.
Okay.
And so they can have all those things, but if we end up having a higher graduation rate and are sending students to college at the same rate, then technically we're doing more with less.
Yeah.
But that's just something that we would have to take. That's why it's important for you to have the data that we're bringing to you to determine if the outcomes that we're getting now are based in a substantially equal in quality amount of inputs in order for our students to get where they need to be.
And last question on this topic: Are you going to get granular statewide data that we can compare ourselves with?
We're about to get some VTCAP data from the state. It's either by the end of this week or early next week. And then the state snapshot should come out probably sometime before the end of the calendar year. Not the school calendar year, but 2025.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry to interrupt.
So the main changes to EQS were making sure that we're focusing on reading, making sure that we're collecting data, and not just collecting data, but actually monitoring the things that lead to that data, and then making sure that we are, again, updating the educational quality standards for the time period that we're in. So when these EQS standards were written, they wanted to do several things. Is that they wanted to make sure that we are including language that includes all of our students, that we're making sure that we're collecting data on the practices that we have, and that we're wanting to make sure that if there is an opportunity, to create an ethnic studies or social equity course, to be able to do that too. It should be taught kind of throughout our curriculum, but at the same time, if there's an opportunity to create an elective, to also do so like at the middle school and high school level. Within the academic portion of EQS, again, focusing on reading instruction, trying to make sure that we're focusing on early education, because early education has some of the highest return on investment of all educational practices that we have in our system. And then also the truly trying to understand where we are with proficiency-based learning as a system to see if that is how we need to continue to progress. So at the state level, they are wanting to make sure that we are really monitoring what is going on within our schools. So not just making sure that, you know, we're taking attendance and having tests taken, but actually monitoring how those things affect our student outcomes. And then making sure that we're also looking at the entire student, so looking at a student holistically, not just thinking about grades and thinking about college admission or career or career licensing and things like that, but actually making sure that we're serving the whole student. And then finally, this kind of gets to your question, Kevin, is what does quality actually mean? And so that's something that I think we need to define as a supervisory union and as a district, so that way when we're building budgets and when we're measuring what it is that we're doing, we have the opportunity to say this is what we're going for, and this is the quality that we expect for our students. So this this might be one of the last slides, if it's not the last slide. Just, it's a change from focusing purely on academic quality, but really more making sure that we're looking at the whole student, not just essentially focusing on academic outcomes. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that we have enough information about each of our students, and we're trying to bring this sense of belonging into our schools, so students feel like not only do I have the opportunity to learn here, but I also feel like my voice and my agency belongs here as well. The other component is making sure that when we are serving students, particularly some of our students who may be who may have the opportunity to participate in enrichment, offering them opportunities to do that, but also having these high standards for all of our students, not just kind of teaching to the middle and not just having a one-size-fits-all curriculum available. Okay. Any questions about this first presentation about how EQS has changed? Yes, sir.
Is this with this being sort of a brand new process with Vermont? Is this a change or a revision that has been undergone in other states that have been the model for this, or are we the model?
So that's actually a really good question. I think we, as a state, we have a lot of documents that we measure success from, and we also have a lot of documents that tell us what the roadmap for success should be. And EQS is more of this is how you should design it. It doesn't necessarily speak to what you're going to get once you design it. And so other states have their own frameworks where they have a set of expectations for what the outcome should be. And so I guess the short answer to your question is EQS is native to Vermont, but other states have their own ways of creating things like EQS. So an example would be, so EQS covers instruction, but it also covers class sizes. So in other states, those might be totally different documents. You're welcome. Okay, so this next, you have this presentation. It's the second presentation, and I'm really only going to touch on about 3 slides because part of the presentation is too long, didn't read, and so, or the TLDR, and so I want to get to that one first. So within the VSBA model, they follow the National School Board Association model of these are the essential work of school boards. Making sure that we have a vision and meeting with the community, curating and establishing policy that the board and the superintendent and really I include the administration there as a partnership, making sure that we have effective and ethical operations. Number 5 is really important to my work as a superintendent, making sure that I bring information to you to monitor progress and performance. And then always in Vermont, making sure that we are talking about the budget for most of our meetings, but within the budget is the financial oversight. And so the part of this will also come into play when we talk about the district quality standards that come up later. But this is the goal according to the VSBA and the National School Boards Association. So within the revised EQS, it really expects the school boards to make sure that that our students are afforded those educational opportunities that are substantially equal in quality. And Kevin, I think you and I had that same. I'm not sure anybody's had that conversation at the state level at length. Like, I don't know if anybody has really defined what equal in quality is. I know some of this has come out of, and Brenda, you might be an expert on this. Were you in your role when that Supreme Court decision came out?
Brigham
The
decision?
Brigham,
Yes,
yeah.
I was.
So
We were
and
here.
and that had to do with school finance related to educational opportunities, right?
Right, and our Constitution, I think, uses the word adequate. Or somewhere I thought there was adequate, but yeah, so what happened was, pre-Act 40, Act 60, education was funded solely by the property tax base of your town. And if you were a small town like Whiting, for example, the home of the Brigham decision, you had a property tax base of maybe $150,000 to support the education of 50 kids. And if you were a town with a rich property tax base like Stratford, you had a tax base of multi-millions to service 22 kids. And so the Supreme Court, when Kevin was asking you earlier about how this gets tested, the law got tested when somebody who felt they were being disadvantaged sued the state, and that's how Brigham happened. So the Brigham decision was, we can't have an adequate education because we don't have the property resources, and that's how the system is funded. And it was found to be true, and within the same year of the decision, they came out with Act 60. So it wasn't about educational resources, it was about the ability to pay.
Interesting. So thank you. So what I take away from this particular slide is that it requires that the administration needs to bring to you, needs to give to you and probably post on our website information about these topics: instructional strategies, college and career counseling with the flexible pathways, CTE, curriculum coordination, and so on. So it is our responsibility to bring that information to you. I guess Lori, you and I can decide how we want to do this, because that's a lot of information to bring at one board meeting. So I think it'll be important for us to do this over time, maybe do two a month. And then that way you have a good idea of what it looks like. Granted, we're going to be reporting on at least at this point, kind of the previous year or whatever this year looks like right now, which is actually before the law went into effect. But I want to make sure that we're abiding by the expectations set by EQS for the school boards. So if there are going to be policies that we need to revise, we'll have to bring these up. We're talking about the library selection policy already. I will have to go back and look at if our equity policy is not up for review. Melinda and I will have to get it on the calendar. And I'm not sure, do we have a community engagement and vision policy?
No, not really.
Okay, so that might be something that we reach out to the VSBA to see if they have a model policy or if they're in the process of writing it, given that it is, an expectation from the new EQS, we would need to look into that as well. So in the big, in the larger slideshow that you received, there's a slide for each one of these topics that are on the left-hand side. So vision and community engagement, policy, board superintendent partnership, effective and ethical operations, monitoring progress and performance, and budget and official oversight. So on the right-hand side, these are ways that when we come to you with these presentations, we can potentially move forward with recommendations from the board on how we implement these things at the board level and at the administration level. And that's the extent of the presentation, because after that is a breakout slide on each one of these options.
Cool. Questions? Yeah.
So the education quality standards had lots of detail around like ratio of librarians, blah, blah. Is that level of detail still available?
For
Just to know what the expectation is in regards to staffing, for example?
so yes, and when we provide our information for the budget, we can also show you what the state considers to be a 4 on the rubric and what is considered a 1 to be a rubric when it comes to staffing, because that is evident in our state snapshot that'll get listed. Because some of our ratios are, high. I mean, I'm sorry, some of our performances, some of our ratios that we have would be considered closer to 4. Some of our ratios would be considered close to 1. And please keep in mind that if let's say you have a high student to teacher ratio, that could be a 1, but also a low student to teacher ratio would also be considered a 1.
So the interesting thing to me would be to say, if we wanted to do this according to all of these standards, what would our budget look like, right? And that's where these decisions get hard, because we can't afford what this looks like.
Yes, and it means you'd be increasing class sizes and reducing teachers. So I'm not sure that it might be cost neutral. And you have the realistic reality of, well, how do you get kids around to meet the class sizes to get a 4 on the class sizes, right? So 4 is the perfect. So some of the things it's easy, but others it's not.
Geography is not. Right.
Geography is a challenge. So, and as Renee said, if you overstaff, you get a 1 again.
Yeah.
You can't build to the, okay, everything has to be here, because you'll get penalized if you're overstaffed too. So it's quite a balancing act.
All right, I'm just going to say my cynical viewpoint here. The list of things for the board to do makes sense. We've been working on those things already. We're going to do the best we can. But Fernanda just pointed out this very basic problem is that we don't have the money to do everything right the way we want to. It's very difficult given our budgetary limitations, the age of our facilities, all the stuff we've been talking about for a very long time. Now I'm going to do the little anecdotal thing that statistically means nothing. I was up at UVM recently and I asked a room full of kids how many of them were Vermonters, and then of the Vermonters, how many of them were from Chittenden County, and I'd say 2/3. That means, Essex, South Burlington, BHS, where else, CVU. And I suspect that ratio applies not only to things like college admission and going to the flagship university of the state, but also to things like special ed, that there are advantages to being in those places, and I think it boils down to money, And I'm very cynical about the state saying, oh, we're going to require all these equitable standards and everything's going to be great, without saying to the rest of the state outside of the rich areas, Brigham was the most important decision in education in this century. It seems to me the spirit of Brigham is evaporating. Where's the money? Where's the beef, Montpelier? We need the money. Because no matter how well-intentioned we are, no matter how competent we are at doing these things, until we get the financial resources, we can't do them. And don't lie to us and say, we're in favor of equity everywhere and everything's going to be wonderful all over the state when we don't see the results. And those results from the relationship to Montpelier to us come down to money. We need it from the state. Don't expect us to be miracle workers without it. Okay, rant over.
Done.
Well said, Kevin.
Yeah, but it's the truth.
Yeah, well, we weren't even doing that great when we were only focused on education quality, so let's do it with the same money, and now let's add equity and social justice, and sounds great.
One of the things that, both of you are, again, on point, because right now, we're spending a lot of time talking about governance. We talk a lot, I'm sure at the state level, talking a lot about governance, talking a lot about taxes. Very rarely do you ever hear any conversation about instruction or student outcomes. And it's a challenge to bring people back to that. And so know that your administrators are constantly talking about that within our system. We can control what we're able to control, and we are doing our best to raise our concerns to the AOE about bringing that focus to what needs to be done. The next component would be to make sure that we get our legislators thinking about or at least student outcomes as well, instead of thinking about whatever else they're thinking about. Yes.
As sort of a yin to the cynical yang, it seems like it's bringing this I understand and I get it that they're giving these guidelines from the state, which is not uncommon, and then they're not putting any resources behind it. Again, not uncommon. But it keeps these components in the conversation. And I think they're important pieces to be part of that process. Whether we can achieve them or not doesn't diminish whether they should be part of the conversation. And so by putting them in this format and presenting it to the school boards and across the state, it's leveling that conversation in a way where it can be meaningful and say we can't achieve these, but we've talked about it, and it's in our process forward to have them contribute as much as possible to how we get there. What you mentioned to my previous question earlier about, you mentioned a piece where other states, similar models, are sort of targeting the outcome. And in this model, it appears that they're refocusing on the process, kind of the life's a journey, not a destination kind of thing, where bringing that into the conversations, so that process of how we get to the end will develop the end. We're following the maze from the start to the finish, as opposed to from the finish backwards just far enough to get the result that we want. In this model concept, it feels like it's a more thorough and complete exploration of the trajectory to get to that result. So I think it's a very interesting component to add, and I am also, it's coming from, I used to do school work building schools in Massachusetts, and there's the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Board Building Association, and that's they take the funding from the big and distribute it across. Mm-hmm. But this is a different model. So they're able to take some of that money and spread it across. But the underlying concept is the same. So if we can work on the concept, maybe the state will develop this in the background and we'll catch up, but they need the data from us of where that process is taking them. And it seems like this is I get all the frustrations with it, but it seems like the genesis of where all of this needs to grow from.
So, and to go along with that is the state is, I know that we sent out a survey to employees. I don't know if we sent it out to everybody, to all family members. But the state, the future Commission on Education is seeking feedback. There is going to be, I think we mentioned that there's going to be or maybe it was before the cameras came on.
But it's on here.
It's on here. That there is a redistricting meeting taking place at Rutland High School, and it'll be a hybrid if you can't make it to Rutland, on October 22nd from 6 to 8. And the AOE is in the process of forming a strategic plan as part of Act 73. So there are going to be additional opportunities for community members and others to give feedback either virtually or in person. And then one other thing that we're working on as kind of a designee from the state is also looking into chronic absenteeism, and we are going to be hosting the first meeting of that chronic absenteeism group, and we'll actually be having focus groups. Can't remember when, but we've offered up several buildings, at least one building in RNESU. But since that's something near and dear to my heart, we offered to be the kind of the starting point for that for the state. So lots of opportunities to give feedback, and we'll keep you informed so that way your voice could be heard.
Awesome. Thank you.
The survey that Renee was talking about was on Facebook, so if you haven't seen it or you want it, just shoot Melinda an email. We'll make sure you get it.
What if you're not on Facebook?
Shoot Melinda an email. We'll make sure you get it.
Other questions or comments for today? Okay. That also include this VSBA thing, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, moving on. We have monitoring report for 2.4, financial planning. I read that. Yay. Yay me, it's coming back. So, should be in your packet. Can I get someone to make a motion to accept that monitoring report, please?
I move that we accept.
Fernanda.
the report.
Okay, is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Thank you, Leslie. Any discussion? All's well that ends well.
I'm looking at it. I think so.
What do you want to say?
Yeah,
Okay.
one of the things that I really enjoy about putting this together is looking for the rationale, like the origin documents that justify the actions that the board and the superintendents take. So with it, being able to kind of find the responsibilities in law and putting them underneath adding them as part of this report. Granted, it makes me look like I know what I'm doing, which is awesome, but it's also really important for me to learn where this information comes from, not being a native Vermonter, not coming up as a teacher or principal in Vermont, but it's nice to see where the responsibilities of school districts, school boards, and the respective administration, what the legislature has done to give us the power to do certain things. So I appreciate that.
Any comments, concerns, questions? Okay, I'm not hearing any. So all of those in favor of accepting monitoring report 2.4 on financial planning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those opposed? Any? Okay, that passes. Thank you. All right, moving on. Governing process. Oh boy.
All right, I'm blowing it up on the screen for
Oh,
you.
thank you. Oh, 3.2, it's a monitoring report. Thank you. It's the oversight to the superintendent. Oversight of the superintendent, excuse me. I believe it's just a one-pager, right?
That is that's
oh,
not in
Yeah,
the,
Yeah,
just
it's
a
pretty
little
much
bit
one.
more here.
is it in
Yeah.
the agenda though? I don't see it on the agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not in
Yeah,
the
it's
right
a-
place, right?
Under governance.
Okay,
It's under governance.
I got
Should
it.
be the first thing.
got
So-
it, there it is.
Here you go.
Yeah, you can look at it.
Oh, I don't need to. It's alright. I just needed to know what it was called. Thank you.
It's hard when those eyes are dilated.
Oh, going straight from cheaters to progressives. That's not going to be fun. Anyway, other than changing the dates of our monitoring, is there anything there that you would like to see changed? For those of you who are new, what you'll see is the policy. I think I explained this at our last meeting together, but you'll see the policy wording, which is on the left. In the middle is what our reasonable interpretation or what that policy wording is, and then the last column is examples of where we did or did not follow that particular part of the policy. So, and there's three little,
And that's PD.
and I think we've changed it all so that it says board and superintendent. It no longer has pronouns in it. So,
Yeah.
okay. I'm not hearing anything, so I'm thinking we're moving on. Or is that okay?
Yep.
All right. Awesome. All right. Next thing.
Act 73, continued discussion.
Oh yeah, Act 73 continued discussion. So, I'm going to start that off with the fact that I sent an email to Eric Montebrand from GRCSU stating that we thanked him for his letter and that we did not want to become part of their SU. And I gave him the reasons, mainly saying that we felt like a regression to us. We didn't want to have 11 meetings a month for our superintendent. You know, the whole purpose of this, at least from my standpoint, and probably yours as well, is that we need to make this more efficient, not more archaic. Although I didn't say it like that. I was much more, I had a lot more finesse there. Anyway, he thanked me for that email. He said he was disheartened that we didn't like the SU model and wanted to know if he could call me. I said, sure. Which turned out to be a 3-hour phone conversation. You are all welcome. Anyway, so essentially what came out of that is that he feels that the SU model is what's going to keep our schools, or he feels that it'll keep districts together, especially he's from Wells,
Has choice.
right, which has choice, and he wants to keep that as long as he possibly can. So he feels the SU model helps him do that. I am not of that mind. I think we're going to be one district, whether it's through CTE or some other mechanism, and that from my standpoint, and I'll share it with you, and it doesn't have to be yours either, but as long as we are able to keep our schools viable, then we're doing well. Especially if we're going to formula funding or block funding, we're not going to be doing budgets anymore. And if we have a parental advisory group at each school, that's our local control. I hate to say it, but that is where our local control is going to be. So he did, however, say that, how do I want to put this nicely? Can I do that? Yeah, okay. Just looking to see who's up there online. He did say that Quarry Valley, which includes West Rutland, Proctor, and Poultney, are a mess. Those are his words, not mine. And that if we were to write a letter to Proctor stating our intention of possibly using their high school as our middle school and increasing our tax base and wanting to work with them, that they would probably jump at the chance because they are in discussions of them having to combine with West Rutland, and they do not want to do that. So, tonight, I want to ask you if you are okay with me writing a letter to the Quarry Valley School District and the Proctor, whoever,
It's very-
asking them if they would like to join the Otter Valley District, not the Rutland Northeast Supervisory Union. So, because we don't want them to have 3 seats on our SU, we would like them to just have one seat. I'd have to find out what their total population is, but I would think it would be one seat, possibly two,
At this point.
at this point on our board.
Tell me,
and-
I'm sorry, you said you wanted to invite them to join the Otter Valley
School district,
School District, but not the district, not the
not
RNSU.
the SU.
OB.
What do we gain?
We gain tax base. I mean, think about Proctor there. They have a really nice tax base. It allows us to bring more kids into Otter Valley. We would not have to do the middle school model expansion because we could use their building, which would save a lot of money that we are already worried that we aren't going to be able to pass. We also gain more vibrant schools. Lothrop is losing students every day. If the Lothrop Elementary School and Proctor Elementary were to combine, fills that school right up, makes them nice and happy. I say that, but it would be better for students to have more.
Helps fix class size problems.
Right, it does.
So you would advocate closing Proctor Elementary School and moving those people to Lothrop?
Well, in the first year or so, we'd probably keep the elementary schools separate, but eventually, yes.
And then, so sixth graders from
All of
within
our schools.
district would go to Proctor
Proctor.
High School.
Or Proctor. Well, we can.
It would be middle school.
It would be a middle
Well,
school,
it'd be
but
middle
yes, but it
school,
would
but
be
right
the
now it's
yes,
the
but right now, yeah,
middle
the
school,
high school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at that building.
6th, 7th, and 8th.
6th, 7th, and 8th would all be.
Yep.
Okay.
Would they want to tuition their high schoolers?
Who, Proctor? They don't have to tuition their high. They have a high school, so they can't tuition.
But if they were to join us,
No, if they were to
Yeah.
join us, they would
their
come
high
here.
schoolers would
They
come
would come
here.
9 through 12.
do we know
So-
what their sizes are?
So I was looking at that. Currently, they have 100 and there's some disparity. Somewhere between 125 and 150 elementary kids, pre-K through 6.
About the size of Lothrop.
Which is about the size of Lothrop. And their high school, I'm not exactly sure, but I did talk to someone who had actually worked there just last week, and they have 17 7th graders. So you can imagine what the rest of their numbers look like for the rest of their grades. Maybe double that in a lot of places, but still, would not be a big stretch to be able to absorb them here.
That seems to be what they've graduated in the last few years.
Yeah. Okay.
What does the process look like to switch?
For them, well, we would have to probably have a vote somewhere. I mean, there'd have to be a vote. Proctor would have to vote to join us. We would have to have a vote here to have
When you
them
say
join us.
Proctor, you mean like all of, like on a,
Yep.
like a
And,
March ballot?
we'd have to have, I would say that we'd have to have negotiations along the
Right.
way. Mm-hmm. We'd have to have a timeline when things are going to take place, and then that needs to be available before there's a vote.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
So it is designed, it's defined in statute. Corey Valley would have to, the whole Corey Valley would have
Have
to
to
vote to
disband.
let them go.
Okay. Yep.
All of OVU has to vote to let them in. And.
Would we have to change the charter of OV since OV does not include Proctor currently?
Oh, definitely have to
Yep.
change
Okay.
ours. And there may be some time and opportunity, with it kind of concurrently running with redistricting. If we would still have to go through all of that, or if, both, Proctor Town and Otter Valley District agreed this is the way they wanted to go, we could perhaps petition the state board to reclassify Proctor into us. So there's a couple of options. It's
Sure.
dictated by statute. I think advocating to the legislature and appealing to the state board are all other options.
Right. And we also have to appeal to Proctor. We have to, they have to want.
They have to say yes first.
Right. They do. But I mean, seems like a
Would.
slam dunk, right?
Hey,
So anyway, yeah. Look, wait till you see those AI things. Anyway.
So the one thing I would also add is like, again, and Brenda says this much better than I do. The redistricting thing has a lot of things that have to happen in order for it to completely take place.
happen.
And so until that happens, we can control what the things that we can control. And for us, it's to make sure that we're taking care of our kids. And approaching Proctor for this, irrespective of whether redistricting ever happens, I think is a good thing for both Proctor and for Otter Valley. and, I look forward to the discussion.
And
Do we know the state of their building?
I think it's in pretty good shape, but we don't know.
It was built in 1917.
Okay.
They have two
Significant improvements
buildings.
in 2000.
They have the high school and they have the elementary school.
So it
The
was built
elementary
good.
had some
High
recent.
school was built in 52.
So,
That's what I would have guessed.
but anyway, we can still look at that. I mean, it may need some renovation, but again, it's not a full build. And I think if we were to do a full build here, that's a much bigger cost than renovating. But I don't know that. But still,
There's
student outcomes, student outcomes and keeping buildings open need students in them. So this is a way to increase our student count.
Proctor's
Grammar
a
school.
long way from the edge of the district, though, on the north side.
Again,
I know.
so, and
Gotta
But-
give something to get something, I get
right.
it.
Well, and I mean, wouldn't it be nice to have an element or a middle school right here in Otter Valley? Sure, but this would do in the meantime.
They have 88 high school students
Okay,
and 35 7-8 students.
okay, yeah, all right. So
Can
they
I
know
add
that.
something?
Yes, go right ahead. Sorry.
I would suggest that we don't write a letter saying, hey, you want to join us, but maybe something like, we'd like to start having discussions about our districts joining. Would you be willing to,
Well,
to
right.
do that?
And I guess I should have quoted right. Yes, that's what I meant.
Okay.
So yes, but thank you.
I agree.
this said there's some weighing of here, because of course we want everything right here and we want to keep things close and we don't want to be busing kids from way up there to way down there. There's all of these gives and takes, but sounds like the get from this is expanding the tax base, expanding the participation base to allow for those next steps. And so what does that next step look like? Does that eventually migrate? And I realize I'm going into the weeds and off into the ditch, but
Not necessarily.
down the road, does this mean, now that we've got the tax base, we've come together, we've got the student population, we've got this
Wow,
growing.
you've got us married already. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay.
You're welcome.
It's planning
Now-
a divorce.
I know,
She was
right?
just going on a first date.
I know, right? Wow. Okay.
So does that, it doesn't preclude from a potential consolidation to here. It doesn't mean that we couldn't eventually have the
Oh, right.
middle school here more central to now a slightly larger district where that building from the 58 is just, it limps along for several years, and then when that
Right.
sort
Well,
of
and right
settles
now
out.
we know that we're in a financial. I don't want to call it a crisis, but we are in financial change and distress. So this would help us, use their building for a while and keep it so that when things return to better times, then we can consider adding on to this building and then potentially closing that. But it also gives Proctor. Kevin had said this the last time we talked about this, was that Proctor would not want to give up their sports name, which is the Proctor Phantoms. And so this would allow them to be the Proctor Phantoms for their middle school. All of our kids would be Proctor Phantoms, 6, 7, and 8, and then they would become Otter Valley Otters, 9 through 12.
And I've been struggling with my kid in
Sure, why not?
OV with getting access to sports.
Okay.
The access has diminished. There's been fewer participants in
Yes.
the teams, and they've been having to expand to middle school and things, and all in the finest spirit. And I'm glad that they're working to do it. But last year, the varsity soccer
Boys
player
soccer
went
were in
there,
Proctor,
and
yes.
my son was a part of that, and he really enjoyed the culture there. It matched, and I would suspect that if that's the culture in their sports, that it would generally be the case across the board, which was a nice fit. And watching that aspect, it would be a great benefit to have that bigger base. I realize it's only part of the overall component, but that was a part that I got to see. And
Sure.
seeing those come together a little bit more officially, and a little bit more sustainably over time would be a nice side effect of it.
So we're not actually saying we're getting married just by writing a letter saying, "Hey, would you be interested in talking to us?"
Yes.
Yeah, let's go on a date, and you know, we can go fishing or see a movie or something. So depending on what you like. So I just need to know what your thoughts are.
And does Proctor, the Proctor component is just Proctor, or
Yeah.
is my new ignorance it comes with these 5 other little things?
So
attached?
no, so Proctor right now is in a district that's called Quarry Valley, which is the town of Poultney, town of Proctor, and town of West Rutland.
Poultney is not close.
Well, no. So we are asking only for Proctor.
So they would have to
They would
break.
break off.
They would break
They would
up.
have to divorce from their current
Yes.
relationship.
Well, and Poultney really needs to go to Fairhaven or Slate Valley or whatever you want
Feels
to
like
call
a
it. I mean, I hate to,
geographical-
right.
Lori's got a plan.
I have this plan for the whole state.
Well, it's going to happen whether they want to or not.
Right, exactly.
Listen to
Yeah,
it.
you know, and West
matchmaker.
Rutland really needs to go to Middletown Springs. They could come to us if they want, but it seems like a far stretch, even though they are
It
close to
seems
Proctor.
stretching further and further in
Yeah.
both of those direct, like
Yeah.
an extreme
But that's what
north
the
to an
state
extreme
wants.
south.
Right. You know, so, or they could join Rutland City, although I don't know if Rutland City would, want them. But the point of the matter is that they have their choice. No, I'm just saying, CVU doesn't want anybody else, and Rutland City may not want to,
Just like
So-
First Town should be talking with Rutland Town.
Right.
Yeah.
Could be the school matchmaker.
Yes.
Maybe. Nobody's come to me and asked me yet, but I'm waiting.
But the Slaters and
So-
the Devils are rivals, so.
These AI notes are going to be awesome.
Yeah,
I
I
need
can't
to read
wait.
them.
So the
Okay.
other point to that, though, is that Poultney and West Rutland would have to agree to the divorce before we could start dating.
Well,
divorce.
No, we
not
can-
necessarily.
dating.
We can go on a date.
We can go on a
I
date,
mean,
but
right.
just don't get caught in like that.
Well, no, they already know about it. I mean, I've
Yeah.
talked to Eric. He kind of knows, and he said, there's, and I know from talking with people in Poultney that there's been discussions about Poultney joining Fairhaven already.
Okay.
So they know the time is near, kind of deal.
I think
They
there is.
just-
There is, so there's a separation because originally, there was the West Rutland, Proctor, Rutland Town side, and then there was the Southwest Supervisory Union side, and they've never really meshed. You know what I'm saying? So
Sure.
Poultney has always wanted to do things Poultney way, and West Rutland, Proctor have always wanted to do things West Rutland, Proctor way.
Sure.
And so there's that thing there. I don't know the degree to which people in West Rutland would be willing to kind of part ways with Proctor, because I'm sure that they really kind of want to absorb them too.
Well, I mean, how many kids does West Rutland have, though, too? I mean, even if they were to join, they'd probably still be too small to stay open long enough.
Yeah.
I mean, long
think there's
term.
like
I don't
three-
know.
There's like 350, but that's pre-K through 12.
Through 12. Yeah. So it's still pretty, tiny. So, just saying.
Yeah.
Just, I've given this a lot of thought, if you hadn't noticed. And been thinking about this a long time, but all I really want to do is just ask them if they want to go on a date.
I say go for it.
Everybody says okay? Everybody all right? Leslie?
It makes me sad, though.
What?
West Rutland and Proctor have a long, century-long history of being yoked together for good or ill.
Yeah. Well, and if West Rutland wants to join us, they are more than welcome to do so.
Yeah. I guess. And just another quick comment. Those buildings are probably pretty good. The grammar school was built with Proctor family money and company money. It's got marble all over the place in there.
High school does too.
High
Yeah.
schools.
In the high school, it's got the marble facade. I don't know about the inside, but yeah. And I don't know if there's much family money by the 50s, but yeah, they're probably pretty solid buildings.
They may be pretty solid in that aspect of built from stone, but I recently, last year, did a survey of the marble church, and I assure you that if they are not properly maintained, they fall into a level of disrepair that cannot be
Fixed? Or not
Right.
easily?
cannot be pulled back from, and that church was forced to close its doors after this review, because there is no way to bring it back from where it was in anything close to that majesty. And because it is such majesty, you can't just nail up some vinyl siding on it and call it done. And any building from that vintage in the 50s, even if you've taken excellent care of it, which they may have, it's the HVAC systems just don't have that existing infrastructure to be able to update them. You're really limited. So it's not to say that that's not a building that can't be a viable space for a period of time.
Yeah.
But we see fewer and fewer buildings from the 50s and earlier that remain standing without either full replacement or massive, additions to accommodate the modern requirements that just can't be retrofitted into those spaces.
Right.
But we're getting ahead.
Well, we are getting ahead of ourselves, but
So-
at this point, I think, it's a viable situation for us right now so that we don't have to go out to bond. We could fix up this building with existing facility funds slowly but surely. It's just a thought. I mean,
And spreading budget out over multiple budget sessions, even if the long term is more expensive, is a very real thing to be doing and makes things happen that would otherwise not happen. And to my friend's note about these conversations are coming. By whether it's our district or the neighboring district to the south or whatever, these are going to be forced one way or another.
well, and I kind of wish
Might
that
as well have some say in it and
Right.
encourage the folks that we want to be involved with to take their say now as while they have
Right.
control.
Well, I kind of wish that the legislature had kind of given us a little bit of a chance to talk to our neighbors, but they haven't.
Kinda
But we well during this
They
time
got a
period.
5 years worth
Right.
of off ramps.
Yeah, well,
I'm
that's
sure
true.
we'll find one of them.
So anyway, all right. So I will. Renee and I will write a letter and
I guess I've got the
send it to
sample.
them, and see if we get a
Good
bite. Yeah.
Occupational hazard.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you. I don't know what's next on our agenda.
Budget environment, I believe.
Budget environment. Okay, that's you.
I think Renee will present for me.
Vanna White duties.
All right, here we are again. I have to say, I think every year I say it's a challenging budget year, but this feels like more challenging than in the past because we're stuck with so many uncertainties. But these are some of the things that we know. So we know these are the drivers of our budget decisions. They haven't changed. Added this year was our 5 focus areas. And so as we are meeting with school principals, faculty and staff, central office administrators, we're thinking about budget changes, budget additions, budget investment considerations with these at the top of our mind. I thought that was just a cool graphic. If you didn't receive this, or I'm sure you did from BSBA, I stole it. It is out of this book, and a couple of other things I've stolen out of this book. It's a good and easy read for anyone who hasn't gone through a budget before. I'd recommend you do it. If you didn't get it from BSBA, send me a message. I'll make sure you get it. But we're right in October, so planning kind of happens outside of you all. We're in October where you get to start setting your priorities for us, and then we go back to work and come to you back in December with more information and really get into the conversations about the if this then this or if that then that. None of that has changed. It's important to know, I'm going to show you some budget numbers, and they are worth this much and worthless a lot more. Because there's a lot of things that are not considered in that because it can't be, because we don't have that information. So I'm just going to remind you of when we get important information that will give us an opportunity to give you a better budget. And that is, the first one is November 1st, we'll get BizBit rates. Right now, for this, what I'm gonna call a rollover status quo budget, we're assuming a 15% increase. Visbit was 12.9 and 16.4. The average is 13, but I tend to go a little bit conservative, especially the first time out. That will be announced to us, I believe, on Halloween. The December 1st letter is important. It is still a yield year. So that will come out to us in December. That's important because that will be used to determine our tax calculations. By December 15th, we get information on the state census-based block grant. That's the funding for special education. Between December 5th and 20th, Alexis and I are focusing on reviewing the long-term weighted average daily membership and making sure we get credit, and our account includes every child we know about, plus their unique circumstances under that formula. Then late December, things just kind of come flying in, and really by the end of December, early January is when we've been able to take a very confident budget and put it into what does it mean to taxpayers. Couple of things to just kind of set the context. CPI's been doing a little bit of this, but it's gone down, right? So the pandemic was 2020, CPI was not moving, 1.3. Then it bumped to 5, then 8, went back down to almost 4, last year 2.5, this year 2.9. So those are real numbers. We're all feeling that. Those are real things. But it's not the same as that 21-22 rises. Not yet, anyways. So we can skip this because it's out of Valley. So the status quo, the level service budget. So what we've done is we've taken every employee that is currently working, and we have contracts. Yay, we have a teacher contract, we have an ESP contract, and we have moved them up according to that contract for their salary increases. A lot of the benefits are based on that salary, so those benefits have been increased affecting that. Workers' comp, unemployment, those things. And we added 15% for health insurance. So whatever plan the person was on today, we're assuming they'll be on next year with a 15% premium increase. Just a reminder, health insurance is bargained and negotiated at the state level. We have no control over it. And the state has frozen the share, the splits. We're responsible for 80%, employees are responsible for 20% until January 1st, 2029, or fiscal year 2030. So we're at 80-20. They have also defined how much we are on high deductible plans, and they've defined how much of a health reimbursement account we will pay, which is towards that deductible. And if you're a single person, we pay $1,900 or $2,000. Your maximum is $2,500. If you're anything other than a single person, we pay $3,800 or $4,400. Those are on top of the premium. We can't change those. So that's been incorporated into it. So with that status quo budget compared to our current year voter approved budget, we're looking at a 4.83% increase. I don't know our long-term weighted average ADM. It used to be a little bit easier to predict, but there's now 5 components, and I can't predict that number until that information starts coming out in December. I can tell you that last year we saw a decline of 6.83% in our long-term weighted average. The things that go into our long-term weighted average that we do anticipate are going to show us a decline is our overall enrollment. I'll show you those slides in a minute. And if we have students who are not attending a full day, then they get counted as a partial day. And if they get counted as a partial day, they get counted as a partial student. If they get counted as a partial student, then on our long-term weighted average, they're a reduction. So we can't predict what that's going to be yet. But with nothing changing, very early, we're looking at an increase in our per pupil spending from $13,872 to $14,600. If we see another 6.83% reduction in our long-term weighted average ADM. That spending of $14,588 will go up that 6%. Just as an FYI, down on the bottom, I didn't realize how small these were when I was looking at them. It's like tiny fine print. I didn't really try to make it look like that. But the Vermont excess spending threshold is $16,331. And just to remind you, that means if you spend more than that, for every dollar you spend above that, you raise 2 in taxes. And new, beginning this budget year, debt service isn't exempted from it. So when we're looking at construction in the future, we have to keep that in mind. We also have to keep in mind, which I will say again later, the Education Reform Bill Act 73 knows that debt service and capital construction has still not been addressed. So they've recognized the need, but not addressed it with funding. Instead, they gave us a study committee.
Admitting you have a problem is the first step.
So these are our enrollments as of October 1st. The first column is what we projected last year. The second column is what showed up on October 1st. And then the last column is moving all of those grades up 1. And new this year, we feel more confident in our kindergarten numbers because we no longer have a pre-K boundary. So we were able to go to Nancy Kay, our pre-K supervisor, and she feels confident that Lothrop will be looking at 14. So the first little piece of bad news is we are looking at 20 less kids at Lothrop as we graduate out a class of 29 and bring in a class of 14. Neshabie, same format. We had anticipated 327 students. We actually received 332. And as you can see, almost all of them came in the K grade. And we know that a lot of those are students that live in Leicester, Sudbury, and Whiting, attended preschool at Neshabie and stayed, or they had a sibling who attended preschool at Neshabie and stayed, so they had a sibling at Neshabie. We feel that we will bring in 38. This is the kids we knew on October 1st. In every preschool program, ours plus outside of our district. And we'll graduate 50. So we are seeing a decrease of 9 students at Neshabie. Otter Creek Academy, we anticipated 64, we got 77. All of it was in kindergarten. So you all remember last year we talked about the Fabulous Four.
Mm-hmm.
We level funded it when we were estimating because we didn't have better numbers. We actually got 11. That's pretty much the increase. We know and feel confident about 10. That 10 does say if you're attending Neshabie, and you live in Leicester, Sudbury, or Whiting, you will go to Leicester. That is what that 10 is saying, just so you know. There is still this school choice option, and they can still apply, but that's what this is saying. So as of October 1st, when we look at it, we are seeing that their student count budget to budget will be essentially the same, 64 students to 67. As a small school, you can see it has the lowest ratio, and that will continue. The high school, this was a little bit surprising, and we are doing more work on this. The middle school, again, same thing, projected what actually happened as of October 1st, a few days ago, and what we expect by moving every grade down and counting all of the current 6th graders. So we are anticipating the middle school, it was budgeted within 1. We are anticipating that to grow by 9 students. The high school, unfortunately, we are anticipating a decrease. And we are now recognizing that we have a trend of a decrease in high school, specifically in grades 10 and 12. So as you, and we're investigating it, we're looking into that. So as you're looking at it, we had anticipated 85 students in ninth grade, 103 in 10th grade. We actually got 94 students in ninth grade and 77 in 10th grade. We are fairly confident that that means some of the increase, the 85 to 94, is ninth grade retention. So they didn't have enough credits to be a 10th grader on October 1st. So that's part of it. But as you can see, our 11th grade was pretty comparable, and our 12th grade was decreased. So that's where we're seeing the biggest decline in students. We had 348 in the middle school. We had projected we are actually at only 315. Next year, we are expecting it to be 334. Overall, when you look at the 7 through 9, it's pretty level because we get the extra 10 students in the middle school.
And that's actual, that's students, that's not long-term where
That's right. That's real children enrolled on October 1st. Okay, so this does have a link to Act 73 for anyone who is interested. As we know, Act 73 has a lot of things that change in education, in the education reform bill, but not everything goes into play yet. And as we've said, there are many off-ramps. So the only thing that really goes into play this year is class sizes. And Act 73 defines the average minimum class size, and EQS defines the maximum class size.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is the State Board of Education has to write rules on how you're going to actually calculate the average minimum class size. We don't know that. The rule-making process for the State Board of Education is at least 180 days. So we are not going to know their rules by the time this is calculated. The law says you have 3 years. If you have 3 consecutive years of not meeting the average minimum, there may be, not there shall be, there may be a slew of consequences. So going into fiscal year 27, we will not have any definitions. We will be kind of defaulting to what we have seen for the years in class size policies. So our current class size policy is essentially null and void because the law is always going to supersede a policy. But that's what we're using as we look at budgets and we consider our budget ramifications. So just a reminder, redistricting, the report is due December 1st. The voting wards is also due December 1st. And then the fun will happen because then the legislature will do whatever the legislature does. So from January, when the legislature is in session, to whenever they close, we'll really know what happens with redistricting. But as Renee said, there are public hearings. They're required to hold 2. They have 4 on the books. They're right there in small print. All of them are in person with a virtual option through Teams. Our closest is Rutland High School on October 22nd, 6 to 8 p.m. If, so the report will go to the legislature. If the legislature acts on the report and does some redistricting, they will also have to, with that, do the voting wards. If they do that, then they would start the election process for new boards in the voting wards, and the election would be 11/20/27. Just as an FYI, that is not a normal election year. Even years are. So then I want to let you know everything that's not happening that we keep hearing about, just so you know it's not happening. So none of these will begin until fiscal year 2029, and that's assuming none of the exit ramps are taken before that. The foundation formula won't happen until then. Within the foundation formula is a new student counting mechanism. So long-term weighted average daily membership that we just got used to will go away. The budget warning for excess spending, so as Lori said, with the foundation formula, you're going to be given an amount. You only go to the voters if you go above that amount. Otherwise, your voters don't vote on the budget. It's just approved. Property tax relief, that's going into play again, if in fiscal year 2029. Instead of having an income sensitivity that we have right now, they will say if you earn less than $115,000, the first $420,000 of your house site value, your home in 2 acres, will be exempt between 90 and 10% of the education tax. So the higher you are, 115 or 114, on the 420, you will be at 10%. The lower you are, 25,000 on the 420, you'll be at 90. So that will be determined in the future. A couple of things the foundation formula has, there's 3 big holes in the foundation formula: special education, transportation, debt service, and construction, which I'm calling the same hole, but they might be a little bit different depending on how you look at it. We have also talked a little bit about capital construction. They talked about it, they recognize our facilities, not just ours, but statewide hours. They recognize the need, and they gave us a committee to solve the problem. So there's no definition as to when the committee will come back with a plan. There is, as of yet, no funding. As a matter of fact, one of the legislations that they passed previous to 73 would penalize us for funding, because that excess spending no longer has an exemption for construction-related long-term debt. And just to make everything a little bit more fun, I will remind you that last year the governor used $118 million of one-time money to offset property taxes. That was a promise he made. Unfortunately, it was done even after the budgets were passed. So even when people voted on budgets not anticipating that money, the money was given. So that $118 million is not available this year. And JFO has estimated that 14 million equals a cent. So when I did the division, that's 8 cents. So there's so many other things calculated into the yield formula, but this will be one of them. That's why, don't you like my little graphic with the question mark? There's more we don't know than we do know. Again, this was in here, and I think it's really helpful, kind of grounding. I know it grounds me, but these are the things that that we kind of operate as. So the superintendent works with you all to meet a budget that you have given us parameters and guidelines on. That's why we're here today. We'll then work and come back to you. The staffing changes, operational changes, recommendations, things that we recognize, knowing that we're focusing on those 5 areas that we talked about in the beginning. We'll tell you about it. At the end of the day, it's your budget to sell to the community. Just a reminder of where our cost drivers are. This is not a secret to anyone. The number of personnel is our cost driver. Salaries are already determined by contract. Collective bargaining agreements are a cost driver. They're already determined. That's kind of nice. You don't have to guess. Health insurance, again, the split and how we share those costs is frozen until January 2029, fiscal year 2030. I threw in 15%. We'll know November 1st, and it will be adjusted. Inflation, you saw kind of spiked and down. It's more in that sort of 3 mark. Tariffs. Nobody knows anything about tariffs. So whether that and how that will play out, we may or may not know between now and the time we finalize the budget. Special education, there is a cost. The Agency of Education just released their report on special education last Friday. If you haven't seen it, it is worth reading. But I'm told it's worth reading. Facilities, you all know it. I don't have to talk anymore about our challenges with facilities. We have both aging facilities as well as underutilized facilities and stretched facilities. So Otter Valley, Neshobe, and OCA are struggling with space. Lothrop has excess capacity. All of our facilities, even though we have done a good job with the resources the community has given us, they're old and tired, and we see it. And to your point, Kevin, when you walk into Otter Valley, it looks very different than when you walk into CVU. Tuitions, just as a benchmark, again, this is designed for Rutland Northeast and Barstow, and it's important for Barstow. But an average, the statewide average elementary tuition for this year that we're in is $19,120, and next year, and high school is $20,910. So the questions we ask of you now, as well as we go through the budget over the next couple of months, is, you know, asking yourself, and questions that we hope to be able to answer and provide you with is, does the spending meet the district's stated priorities and goals? Does the budget include class sizes that are within the district class size policies and procedures and state guidelines, even though we don't have state guidelines yet? Does the budget allow the district to meet EQS standards and district standards? Are we appropriately addressing facility needs? Maybe you should say adequately addressing. Does the proposed spending on staff, salaries, and benefits achieve the district's stated priorities and goals? That's more about the level of staff. And how does our current per pupil compare to other similar districts in our region? The December 1st letter will give a projection for what they expect the state average per pupil spending will be. I'll share that information in future budgets. And then how does the budget impact tax rates in our community? And we'll share that with you again, but it will probably not be until late December.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Or are you at that point?
I think
look at
so.
that. Questions.
Look at you.
Look at me.
A little bit early.
Right inside. The Rutland Northeast budget is the one that deals with salaries and staffing, correctly? Correct?
No,
Okay.
RNESU deals with
RNESU.
special education personnel,
Okay.
along with transportation personnel. But the regular teachers in Otter Valley, that personnel is
And what
separate.
about administration and
That's
central
that's
office?
that's RNESU. Yes.
So how do the two meet one another? I know that we've had issues around the timing of one decision versus
Sure.
another decision.
So RNESU does their budget, and they finalize their budget and vote on it in December. Okay. Mid-December, when we have our meeting, mid-December.
Okay.
That gets rolled into, and it already is usually rolled into Otter Valley's budget by, what do you call it?
Assessments.
Assessments, thank you. Based on a formula.
At a time.
Well, and also based on formula, Barstow pays for certain things, we pay for certain things, blah, blah, blah. It's usually a 73-27% split somewhere in there.
1585, close enough.
Whatever, okay. Anyway. And so then that gets rolled into Otter Valley's budget. That's how the RNESU budget gets voted on by the OV taxpayers, is by that assessment. The one thing that I said last year was that once RNESU has a budget, we will bring it to Otter Valley so that you can look at it and ask questions before we finalize it in December.
That's
Okay.
beautiful. Okay.
So we will do that.
That's where I was
Yes.
thinking it'd be nice to have that opportunity to
Yes.
see and reflect.
Doesn't mean that anything will change.
No.
But, yes.
So this guide does a nice job, and it probably did it last year, and I didn't pick it up. Last year was the first time it was released. It really kind of defines staff at the central office, and I think that's important for us to know and for us to start using in words. So there are central office staff whose work is at the district level, and then there are school-based staff who are budgeted centrally.
Yeah.
And the majority of the Rutland Northeast budget is actually school-based staff that are just budgeted centrally. They are not administrative positions.
Right.
And so we're going to try to do a better job identifying the difference, because I think
I appreciate that, because I think that's a lot of the community perception.
Yes.
it wasn't
Is that
my
we are
great idea, it was
administrative,
this
that
one.
we're administrative heavy, right? And
Yeah.
that
Yes.
budget is heavy. So it would be really nice to communicate clearly what it actually accomplishes and what it supports.
So another thing this report said that I think is important for people to understand, and one of the things that I found frustrating and a little disingenuous with the legislature as they were talking about Act 73, there are legislators who believe that Act 73 is a good idea because we will be able to cut superintendents and save enough money to invest it back into schools. So I just wanted to let you know that nationally, general administrative costs account for 6 to 7% of districts' budgets. In Vermont, it's just under 6. So Vermont already nationally has less. And for us, when you take out technology, because we budget technology centrally for schools, we're at 5.29%.
All those things need to get out there.
They do.
They really do.
They do.
I've got a question. Not that you have a crystal ball, and Brian may want to jump in on this, but what's the situation look like with special education funding? Is there any indication that it's going to be a problem coming out of Washington in the next fiscal year? Or?
Oh, that's a good question. Special education feels good. As we know, the government is not operating.
I don't expect a check right now.
But both sides of the aisle are in support of IDEAB. So we are not really fearing special education funding. Just so you know, when we do the rollover budget, special education did go up 11% because it is a staff-heavy budget. There's nothing else. There's no building to weigh it out again and bring it down. The one that we are most concerned about is our consolidated federal grants, which is sometimes called CFP funding. It's our Title I and Title IV. Those are the ones. Title I seems to have fairly good across the aisle favoritism. Title IV not so much, but they haven't come to an agreement on how much. The Agency of Education, our
Can you
agency.
just explain what Title I and Title IV are before you move on?
Certainly. Title I is compensatory education. It is designed and the formula is created to fund your poorest schools more. And we use it to buy academic interventionists, professional teachers at our elementary schools. And they are all at Otter Valley because Barstow does not qualify.
Okay.
Title IV is technology and well-being. It's a little bit more pushy and enrichment. It's about $110,000. Well-rounded. It's about $110,000
To us?
to us.
Okay.
That one is more at risk. Title I, it's about $750, maybe $650. It feels a little bit less at risk, but I can't promise. And what we have heard is if an appropriation comes through, it would probably be level. And so level always means a reduction because we pay for staff and salaries and benefits. The Vermont Agency of Education usually gets their allotment this time of year, and they save that for our 27 school year. So we're good for 26 because the Agency of Education is, kind of awards it a year, and it, has the funds before the awards, but we are still waiting to hear what happens for 27. That will definitely be discussed more at Rutland Northeast as well.
And that's another part,
Michael
right?
has a question.
That's another part of the staff that is centrally allocated, but to the schools or whatever the wording is.
I gotta
know,
learn that.
that's great wording.
School-based staff centrally funded.
There. So those positions are also grant funded, some of them.
some of
So
them.
that's another part of that.
Michael?
5 of them.
Yeah, just while we're on the topic of federal funding, Brenda, you've talked to the administration a couple of times about Medicaid, and that was one piece that you missed because we know that's been on the chopping block that doesn't affect this budget. Did you want to go over that?
Yes. So I have to tell you, I always feel badly because for at least 20 years I've been telling you Medicaid's a house of cards, and now I really think it is. I've always thought it was. Medicaid was always a gift when we first got it. And we invest most of it in mental health services throughout mental health, plus a Medicaid clerk to actually get the money, somebody who does all of the billing. So Medicaid is changing how they do that. So we are Not exactly sure if we'll be at the same level or not. And they are also, we operate similar to the state with federal funds in that we try to have a year in reserve. And you may recall Rutland Northeast last year transferred surplus funds of $300,000 into Medicaid so that we would have that and not kind of spend and go and potentially end up with a surprise deficit. The Agency of Education just recently has said they want to understand how we're really going to spend that all down. They don't want us to have a reserve. I believe that is because they can advocate more at the state level if they can prove people aren't sort of squirreling their Medicaid money away. So Medicaid is definitely something we are watching very closely. We have enough in the budget for this year, and we anticipate enough for next year, and we might actually be looking at adding some programs or adding some spending from there to help meet some of the other pressures of the budget. Again, focusing on the 5 areas. And I forgot what else I was going to say. Sorry, it might come back.
There's one thing that I would add to that. Brent and I have started talking about the concerns about the reduction of SNAP benefits and Medicaid benefits to our families. Medicaid becoming more complicated to qualify for, and SNAP being reduced overall. Right now, the state of Vermont uses direct certification of receipt of those services as part of categorizing our long-term weighted average daily membership for students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. If those numbers go down, then we will have fewer pupils who meet that weight. Because
That was a lot of the reason we lost last year.
and we don't enter, so it's a weird way. So they tell us the information, we enter it, then they grab it again. So it's a really weird sharing of data, but that has potential of reducing our budget from the revenue standpoint. When the foundation for, well,
Even now.
Even now.
And that was the majority of the reason why we saw that 6% decrease in our long-term weighted average ADM from last year to the current year that we're in. So it's too early to predict if we will see an equal decrease. But as you did see, we saw some real decreases in enrollment. So that will be averaged in long-term weighted ADM. Long-term, it's a 2-year average. So it takes what's happening this year and last year and averages. So that 30 student decrease will be halved. Good? Anyone on?
I know it wasn't in the presentation, but do we have something with our policy on class sizes that we can review quickly?
We can pull up the policy on class size if you want.
Yeah, I used to
Yeah.
put it in. You want me to put it
Yeah, I
back?
feel like it used to be in there.
It did. I took it out because I was trying to be.
Trying to avoid his question,
No,
apparently.
I was trying to.
So
I kept hoping that we would have some guidance from the agency, but we didn't.
was it in
I
last
know,
year's, was
silly
it in
of
last
me.
year's presentation, Brenda?
Yeah, there's also, if you wanted to go to the policy, it's a.
So
it's a
the minimum,
state policy.
the minimums are right here.
That's EQS or is that the
Act
policy?
73.
No, that's Act 73. We have our own
We have our
policy.
own policy.
Right.
Can you
Yeah.
pull it
Which
out,
Which
Debbie?
apparently is the only thing that matters right now.
Well, our policy? Yes.
Do you want me to find?
You know, I think it's the only thing we can really let matter at this point. Otherwise, we're just guessing.
Right.
It's a state policy, so scroll down.
But they're gonna tell us. It's an IOU.
Go ahead, Debbie's got it.
As I'm
I have-
looking at
yeah,
them,
I'll
I
put it
think
up.
that we're
Okay.
we're below in many.
Or do you want me
Yeah.
to share it with you?
We're below in some.
I'll add this slide in. I don't know why I took it out. So K through 3, minimum, optimal, maximum. 12, the sweet spot is 14 to 18 with a maximum of 22. A question was actually asked today, what happens when you hit 22? Honestly, it depends when you hit 22. You hit 22 on October 1st, you just keep moving.
Yep.
And if it's a mixed group, does that say that too?
Does not.
It does not, because I'm just looking like Otter Creek, right? The K1 currently is 21, which I think would be over.
Well, no.
No, they wouldn't, 'cause the
K3
maximum is 22.
But
It's
for,
close.
for a straight grade. But usually when you have a combined grade, you lower that number.
They also have more teaching too.
So they do have a teacher that, where I was
Is
just looking at the schedule
shared.
today, where I actually watched them walk down the hall. They split the classes when they are looking at specific
Yeah.
content for reading and math.
And even though we have this policy, there's many places where we don't actually follow it.
Well, the policy is a recommendation. You know, honestly, you could never be that rigid. What are you gonna do if you have
Right.
26
No, no, no,
students?
I realize that, but we do have class sizes that even though the minimum is 12 to 16 or
Not many,
whatever, we do have some classes that are below that.
We try to stay true to it, but
I'm looking and there are not that many. 3, 4?
I think our smallest school's gonna hit it the most.
Yep.
Lothrop flirts with it a lot.
Lothrop flirts with it a lot.
But they also are the only school that has combined grades. No,
No.
Barstow has 7, 8, right?
Well, yes.
Yeah, but it's
right.
not, they
there's
are
multiple
not
teachers.
taught
There's multiple
together, though.
teachers for 7, 8.
What other Otter Creek?
Otter Creek and then Lothrop.
Lothrop has combined grades?
No, they don't
No,
have
no.
combined grades, but they flirt with our class size policy.
Right. But not by much.
And we have talked about making them,
Well, they're gonna lose 20 kids.
Yeah,
between
right, so-
last year and next year.
maybe we need that date to happen sooner than we think. Okay, sorry. All right. Does anybody have any questions about our class size policy? I mean, this will stay until things change, Act 73, if they change. This will remain our policy unless we decide to change it.
And they're guidelines.
Right, they are guidelines, you're right. Okay. Are you looking to us tonight to talk about anything that we want to see different? Or that we, you've told us what it looks like if we level fund, that's a 4.83%.
To 10.
Minimum. Yep.
Yeah, we're looking at what you believe the community can support. We're hoping you're not telling me to run budgets just for the fun of it, so Fernanda can say we can't afford EQS.
I mean, I've asked this before and I'll put it out there again, is are you flirting with the idea of pulling all of our pre-K to Leicester and moving our K through 6 in OCA to Neshabie?
We'd be looking for you.
Have we had that discussion?
No, but
Not formally.
not formally. I've asked the question. We can have that discussion now. We can have it later, but they are going to be budgeting, and I think about Act 73, whether or not we get an off ramp or not. How do we keep our buildings vibrant and sustainable? And I realize 87 kids or whatever is small. Is it 67?
77.
77.
67 next year.
Okay, 67 next year. I look at that and I look at the numbers at Neshabie when, 10 years ago we had 60 kids in each grade at Neshabie, and the early years no longer have that. They have 33 or 35 or 38. Class sizes of 1 to 20 is not unheard of. And I also think about, would it make sense to put those kids together? So that they know who they are before they hit 7th grade. The only kids they won't know is Lothrop. And the only reason I'm not saying to add Lothrop to all of that is because it's too far. Or it doesn't,
And Neshabie's not big enough.
and Neshabie's not big enough. So, and I'm also looking at the north end of our preschool. We're talking about buildings. We've just paid Whiting off. We have the ability to say, okay, do we need Whiting any longer? We have pre-K there, 12 hours a week for 2 different grade, 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and the rest of that building is being used by a daycare center. Is that what we're in? I mean, not that I don't, I mean, it's great for people who need the full day daycare. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that what we are in the business of? We're not in the business of having a daycare in one of our buildings. And does it make sense to put all of our pre-K kids, 3 and 4-year-olds, into one building together?
They're renting the space, correct?
They're not, well, they're paying for different things. They don't actually rent the space. So, because we couldn't do that in order to keep our funding.
So with the next meeting being our facilities meeting, we can bring a couple of scenarios if the board would be willing to
I think
look at
we've-
them then.
I think
you
we
just
have to have the
clarify?
discussion. Sure.
Are you talking about, because I think I heard it both ways. Are you talking about Pittsford not having pre-K anymore?
No. You're too far away. It doesn't make sense to do that.
Okay.
But you may not have it at Caverly.
Well, that's a
And
different,
that's
a
another
different
discussion.
conversation, right?
That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But no, Pittsford would have their own pre-K. It's too far away. Plus,
Okay.
Barstow needs to be able to access that. I believe they're starting
They
to
do.
access that with you guys. So, and we need to keep that
Okay.
a viable option.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no.
So
I apologize if I made that unclear.
I guess I would like a discussion or a proposal of various options, but I also would like to understand what the process or protocol would be for the communities of Whiting, Leicester, and Sudbury to participate in a conversation around it, or to at least be able to be heard about them. Like this, it feels like we need to create some way of engaging the community in that question. I mean, it just feels to me like for the longest time it's their
we have the time
sacrifice,
for that, though?
right?
Well, there's always time for that. I mean, it is only October, and
Well, I
we're not
know,
presenting
but-
a budget until January.
We put out a survey, like 2 people filled out the survey.
No, it's not a survey. It's more or less saying, hey, we're going to have a meeting.
Yeah.
And we're talking about doing this, and it's already out there. I've said it enough to too many people that they
Well,
don't
I know that
about
it's
it.
out there because I got
So-
a question about it.
Right.
So I know it's out there.
So, and I've just started making waves prior to a meeting, prior to discussing it, because it needs to be out there.
But I think it needs to be warned that we're
Well,
going to have
sure,
that discussion.
but no, and that's fine.
In that theoretical situation, it would be nice to know, like, what do we gain and what do we lose by doing that, right?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
we save X amount because we're going to do this, this, and this. I would want to see some of that high level. Obviously, we don't really know, but
Well, I think you're going to find some stuff. I mean, just having kids together is a benefit. It may, I don't know, increase the number of hours that we can offer pre-K. Instead of it being 12 and 10, it can be something else. But yeah, there's all of those scenarios.
I mean, that
So,
seems like that would end up in a reduction of like 5 teachers.
I don't know how, well, right, I mean, we wouldn't need it would be a reduction of a principal.
Do you need a
We have
principal
a-
administrator for a
We have a preschool coordinator, and so therefore that person would go in there.
Maybe.
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 Okay. So, but we do have a preschool coordinator.
And what preschools are you thinking about going into Leicester?
Whiting and Neshby.
Neshobe would no longer have a preschool
Well,
because
right.
they would be taking all those kids.
And it would
Free
create
up
space.
Right.
They'd have 2 additional
And if you
classrooms.
look at the class sizes, kind of absorb that anyway.
Mostly.
The hallway would be more crowded.
Preschool doesn't run the same hours.
No, and there's no busing for preschool either. That's the other thing people need to be
Yeah,
aware
that's
of.
another challenge.
But it is on Route 7. I don't know if that makes it easier to get to, or
Yeah.
instead of in Forestdale.
Well, after preschool, parents have to figure it out anyway. So
You don't transport 4-year-olds?
We do not.
No, we do not. We don't transport 3 or 4-year-olds.
can we, or is there? a
We
reason?
transport 4-year-olds.
Oh, you do?
Mhm.
Oh. So,
3-year-olds no, because of car
Yeah.
seat issues.
No, I can't afford my property.
What? No, it's just because I'm thinking the kids will be coming down that way. right? So they could, potentially 4-year-olds could be transported.
So, is it something that you would like to hear about at our next meeting?
Yes,
Potentials.
Or any other good ideas that we haven't talked about.
exactly.
Okay.
It feels like another one of those, the future is inevitable discussion.
Yeah.
I'd rather have it now than find out that we need to put OCA on ice and figure out something, scramble.
Mm.
You know, do you know what I mean?
Well,
Let's be proactive instead of reactive.
one of the things that was kind of kicking around in my head, sort of along the same lines as this, because I think ultimately we've been avoiding this conversation for years, right? Maybe we need to have. I know we can't budget past 1 year, but in our improvement plan, we can have an idea budgetarily of where we want to go. And these are hard conversations, but we kind of get forced into it. So I don't know if part of the budget process should be like beyond this year to say, and that's another thing that we can sell too, right? Like if closing a school saves us $10, should be more than that, I'm hoping, then we could say, well, you know, over the 5-year term or whatever that we still exist, it would save us this much. I don't know.
And is Sudbury an issue?
So I do want to say you can budget beyond. I mean, you can have a budget plan beyond the current year. It's not adopted. You'd have to, you know, tweak it and readopt each year, but you could outline a plan. If we had this conversation last year, I would have been much more enthusiastic about it. This year, a little bit less, because we are waiting to see what happens with redistricting. But the reality is, even if everything aligns and a type of redistricting comes to fruition, we have a couple of years. So there is nothing that says you can't have short and long-term goals in regards to school facility, utilization, occupancy, etc. Just to let you know, you can. It's just you can't like do it and rubber stamp it, and we won't be able to predict future taxes because that will all be based on future information. But we could predict if it happened today, this is what today's savings would be, or ramifications, right? So there are some things that we could do in that.
Well, it would be nice to be able to say, right, like we have a plan to address the facility needs, other than saying we're going to use the facilities fund as we get things over time. Maybe we put money in, maybe we don't. But if we had a plan, right, if we were saving, this is probably a lot, but let's say we were saving $1 million and half of that we're putting in the facilities fund. I mean, that shows a plan rather than just we're hoping.
Well, and so you do kind of give us a plan every year with facility fund use of monies because you give us that 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of deal.
Yeah.
So there is that kind of plan that we're looking at every year. But
It's not really related to occupancy, though.
no, it's not related to occupancy, but just as far as facilities is concerned.
I mean, we do well with that program, but if we look at what this facility needs.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we haven't talked about
ain't
roof,
cutting
and
it.
I think we need to talk about roof.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
In redistricting, is there a conversation about county lines?
That is one of the conversations.
And
The
that's,
first-
so here's my
But
feeling.
it wouldn't, like, they would stay with us. Lester and Whiting would stay with us.
And Goshen. Don't
And
forget
Goshen.
Goshen.
That's not, so what is the conversation about county lines? That they wouldn't be disrupted?
So
What is currently crossing county lines?
the first map that has been thrown out there is based on CTE centers, so career centers. So because we are already sending to Stafford, then those 3 Addison County towns would continue to stay with Stafford. Okay. However, there is the potential of another map coming out that is all based on county, and if that were the case, then the question becomes is because we have 3 Addison County towns, and even Slate Valley has an Addison County town, would we get to keep you guys, or would they be forced away from us? I
Or
don't
would
know.
they want to? I mean,
Well-
Goshen might want to go to Middlebury.
Well,
Wants tos are not part of this discussion.
Well, I mean, we're talking about wants tos with Proctor, right? but.
Well, that's
No.
because we have
But
time.
we've
Because
already been
that's a
dating
different,
for.
that's a different
Yeah,
We've already
conversation.
married Goshen.
That's a different
Right.
conversation.
So,
No, but I guess I would want to keep that in mind of a conversation of shifting a community several times over time, right? So
right, so the plan-
they've given up a lot already. Whiting and Sudbury have gone to Leicester. You know,
Yep.
it's like there's been a lot of movement and a lot of
but we haven't
situations.
we haven't done a lot. We haven't done any of that in the last 5 years at least.
right,
Or
but we
more.
could be doing it in
Or more.
2 more. So
We could be
I'm
doing it
just,
next-
I'm-
yeah.
Not we.
But also the numbers
well,
are
it
what
could
they
be done
are.
in 2 more.
Well, it could be done next year, yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that would, once that, as far as redistricting is concerned, we can't be certain of what will happen there, but I would think there'd be a grandfather of clause of something, if those kids are already going to our schools, maybe it stays that way, but we don't know. And who knows, they may not be able to figure out a map anyway.
Anyway,
They
it's-
did do grandfathering for tuition, so maybe they would, if you
Maybe.
currently own the student until they graduate. I don't think anyone knows the answers to that. There would also be time to advocate.
Well, what other
Everyone
big
will
move
be.
could we make? I mean, the only other thing we could do would be to split
That
students
should be
in Brandon. Yeah.
And send them to Lothrop.
Yeah.
And we thought about doing that one time. Remember, Natalie, you came to that meeting.
how did it go?
Oh,
Somebody was boiling.
So
hard.
for
the theater was completely full and overflowing.
Not quite to the VCC level, but
No, but
Not
very
that.
close.
Yeah.
not that I want to go down this road,
another
but is it worth exploring both options just for?
He loves to give
Hey,
you
if you want to get the community's input, then sure.
Facts.
I think part of this too is that we can control the narrative to an extent to say what's being discussed. And I think coming out of the recent budget cycles, the mood around the budgets is more constructive now than it was a year or two ago when there were a lot of very strongly held opinions of just no's across the board. And I think we've made it past that. So now is the exact time where we need to be bringing some of those important conversations
To the forefront.
to future-proof this district or this
yeah.
union for those, where we can't ignore these any longer. We had to ignore them because of the strongly held opinions that were driving us from not being able to make decisions and focusing on.
I don't oppose the conversation. I just want to make sure that
There
people
are
know we're having them.
Yes, no,
Yes.
understood.
Definitely still a lot of strong opinions. I don't think
Well,
that's
there'll be
changed.
strong
I think-
opinions
I think the
regardless.
strong opinions are there, but I think they're more open to the conversation now because.
I mean, you can't vote our budget down a couple times one year and then have it passed by one vote the next year and not expect us to try to react to that. So,
Well, and
Points are
I mean,
valid.
I'm also looking long term. This is not, if we do move the preschools together, then we can give the Whiting building back to Whiting. They are already requesting it. Sudbury, as long as we can keep the Bruce Academy alive and well, and not have to send those kids out of district, then that should stay where it is. And as far as central office is concerned, if we do,
we're ready to
End
move
up-
tomorrow. There was a snake in the building.
yes, I heard.
Oh, just
You
bring
know,
some mice.
If we are able to make a move
Ready to
with
move
Proctor
tomorrow.
and move some of our kids out, then that allows us to get rid of the central office building, and it's also another win-win for us. Because we can sell that building, it doesn't go back to the town of Brandon. We bought it for $1 from the state of Vermont. So,
Not quite $1, but close.
well, whatever. It was pretty darn close.
And I
With
think
the
there's-
snakes. You can sell it with the
on
snakes.
On the outreach, there's various tiers of what can be provided on that outreach. There's
Yep.
the group of community members who are just high-level one-topic respondents. They make it to one level deep, that's as far as they go, they base their vote on that. Then there's another tier of people that will dig to the next level. So if we have these tiers available that we present to the community, say, okay, here's the flyby. Everybody who wants to fly by, this is what you're flybying in. Everybody who wants to dig deep, here's that. The super deep is here. So thinking about it from the viewpoints of the community, like, I think members of sitting at this table are certainly going to be some of those, 2 tiers deep. Whereas some of the folks who, it's a miracle that they just make it on voting day. And
Well-
but we want to cater to each one of those groups to give them the level of data that is effective. Where if we put something out there on the highest level that requires the other levels to really clarify what that is, it can be very misleading, and it will send the public in a direction that isn't what we've intended.
Well, that's
for it
why
to
we
be.
have Jill, who is our communication coordinator. We will be using her a lot. And we will have probably an FAQ sheet so that kind of answers that stuff. We start with the high level and then those more informative pieces as we go along. And we all have to make sure that we're on the same page as a board so that we're not all giving out different information.
Further encouraging that the board take up these
Right,
these
exactly.
discussions early
Yep.
to be ahead of it, so we control that narrative when it's coming, and don't let the public
Also, the
opinion-
effectiveness, the efficiency, the cost efficiency of the Bruce Academy would be a good thing to also sell, if you can, because there is also questions around that,
Sure.
the use of that building.
So you meet in 2 weeks.
Hmm?
You meet in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Is it fair to say that that should be through Rutland Northeast and through the budget process, and this conversation should take priority?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. Okay.
And just so I understand what I think you're saying, I think you're telling us to look at what the pros and cons would be with reconfiguring Whiting and Leicester. And you mentioned Caverly and then nothing. So is Caverly on this conversation?
I think we have to have the conversation about Caverly being where it is, or whether we have enough room again in
Well,
Lothrop. If they continue to lose students, there's
Do we need to try to accelerate the date with Proctor? Right? Because
That won't happen by August.
that's not going to happen by budget time. I mean, we're
no,
not
but
going to have.
it does matter. We might need Caverly in that case.
Well,
You could
there's nothing
always
to say that we could always reopen it. We still own that building, but the fact of the matter is that, and I know you may not agree with this, but from my standpoint, it is a safety issue. They are not near, they don't have an administrator on site. They just barely got their, Raptor involved, which the teacher now has to take time to do that as well. It's becoming, a little bit harder. You're trying to teach kids, but yet you have to do all this administrative stuff as well. So I would want to get her take on it as well, see what her thoughts are. And then also, principal, if something happens, the principal is 10 minutes away if traffic is good. And you never know what that's going to be like.
Yeah.
So, anyway. So, yeah, I think that needs... I think we have to have the discussion whether or not we decide to do something this year. It needs to be on the discussion. Or it needs to be on the... Not the chopping block, but on our radar.
In the conversation.
In the conversation. There we go.
It is able
And if
to.
we have that 6% decrease in long-term average daily membership, and we don't investigate other options, I think our community would be like, won't necessarily be happy about it. We should at least investigate what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to investigate all options,
There we go.
even if. What we're talking about are hard decisions for a lot of communities.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So...
And what we'll try to do is show you what the hard costs might be, but also what the soft costs are.
Sure.
For
Yep.
the soft things to consider.
The soft tissues? Okay. Perfect. Thank you. I can't read this.
There you go.
Oh, I can read that. Awesome.
There you
All
go.
right. So we need to designate a Visbit VHI proxy. I am already the proxy for Barstow. So if you want to, and RNESU. So if you would like to vote me in as the proxy for Otter Valley, I'd be happy
What
to
does that
entertain that
mean?
motion. The proxy, it means that when...
For what?
For Visbit and
Okay.
VHI, which is the insurance and
to carry the vote for the board of directors.
Got it.
Yeah.
I so move.
You so move.
I'll second.
Fernanda and Kevin. Okay, any discussion? Does anybody have any questions about that? It's just
Anyone else
essentially.
have any inclination to do it whatsoever?
Okay, there we go. All right. Anybody want to answer that question? Yeah, okay.
And that's for the vote at
Grateful for
the,
your involvement.
That's at the annual meeting, which is
Right.
going to be up in Burlington, and it's at 8 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. So, yeah. Okay, so all those in favor of designating Lori Bertrand as the proxy for the Visbit VHI meetings, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye, aye,
All
aye.
right. All those opposed? Okay, great. Board vacancies. We still have one at-large rep, 2 years remaining of a 3-year term. That at-large rep can come from any of our towns, 6 towns. They do not have to come from any one particular place. So if you know someone who says that they want to be on the board, or you meet them at a coffee talk, get them to sign up. We do need one more person. We did have a coffee talk on Monday. Was it Monday?
it was last Friday.
Was last really?
Last
Oh
Friday
yeah, it was
at
last
Keith's.
Friday. Because today is Tuesday. Last Friday at Keith's store.
And prior to that, there was, we had a meeting at the Brandon Library too.
That's right.
Are these well attended? Generally?
Not as well attended as we'd like, but community members do come.
There's a constructive aspect.
Yeah, yeah. No, there was like 5 or 6 people at Keith's.
At Keith's.
Yeah, so that was good.
So you're receiving valuable feedback. So that brings comebacks to us so we can make some good decisions.
Oh sure. I mean,
Public
there was one gentleman there that was talking about. What was he talking? The one gentleman was just bringing up things that he'd heard and wanted to know answers to those questions. You were able to answer
Revolving
those
around
questions.
some of it revolving around transportation.
Right, transportation. And then the older gentlemen were there, and I got there a little late, so I don't know if they said anything.
No, we
to you.
talk about taxes, we talk about farming, we talk about,
Current
Okay.
policies.
and things like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
it keeps
Well,
your name
6
and your face
people.
in the community. It,
right.
That's like a quarter of 1%.
I just signed up
Well,
for the
yeah,
morning side.
but the more that
I
you're
signed
out
up
there,
for the
you know,
morning
the guy who came and asked about transportation, that was great. You know, and the more that he tells other people to come and engage with us, the better, right? So, got to start somewhere.
And those
Yeah.
opportunities will become even of greater value as we've discussed.
Morph
these
into budget,
items.
So, the next one is this Friday at Morningside Bakery at 7:45 to 9:45. We have another one at the Pittsford Library on October 23rd. And then there's 2 other coffee talks, one at the Whiting General Store on October 24th in the morning, and then again Sugar and Spice in Mendon on November 12th in the morning.
And these, what I'll do is they take place over 2 months, and so starting in December, we'll start back at the beginning and do them all over again.
Right.
I can't help but notice that, what was the next date?
October 10th with this Friday.
I'm going to that one.
I can't help but notice that these are weekdays during hours
Yes.
where the unfortunate working constituent would struggle to make this and have to go out of their way to do it. I understand that Renee in particular and everybody has their own working hours, which that's part of. Are there any of these that are set up for weekend or off hours times where the daily working community could?
Well, the one gentleman that came did come on a day off where he was going in late to work. So if you know when they are and you can make it work so that you come and have coffee at 8 o'clock and still make it to work at 9, you know,
Yeah, that's why we're trying to do them at the beginning of the
Right.
day or at the end of the day.
right.
I just know that there's a great number of the community that is blue collar. They start
Right.
at 7. They are historically underrepresented in the ability to participate in these.
Well, there's also some that start at 3, so those working collar people sometimes get done at 2:30, and they can come to those 3 to 4:30 options.
Yeah, those didn't exist last year. We wanted to bring those in for the people who are maybe picking up their kids at the end of the day and that can come by.
But there'll be other. I mean, the other ways is using reach out or, you know, seeing a board member or calling directly. There's lots of ways.
I'm taking away from this that there is no plan to add weekends or.
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment.
We do have board meetings in the evening
Yeah,
every other week.
look at this. We have so many.
So many
Okay.
options.
A lot more fun around coffee and donuts.
That's right.
We could bring coffee.
All right, so next thing, district quality standards, governance standards. We have a self-assessment rubric that is due in November that we have to actually create. And Renee's going to put it up there.
Yep. If I can find my Zoom thing again, there it is.
So this is the district quality standards rubric. You'll see that they all have different things. The first one is budgeting and accounting, and we get to determine where we fall on that rubric, whether we are at the beginning, approaching, proficient, or advanced. Does this sound like proficiency-based learning for boards or what? So that's exactly what this is.
So you'll see the standard, like the expectations are over here
Right.
on the left-hand side. And then, like you mentioned, the rubric, where are you,
On the-
is to the right.
So we will bring this back at a later meeting to fill out so that we can send it to the AOE. It is due in November, I believe.
Well, I
So
think
we
there's a-
include, we included it here so that you would have access to it, so you'd kind of be familiar with it when we bring it back for
Right.
a deeper discussion.
Yeah.
Is there a strategy to this? If we threw darts and picked our, whether we're proficient or not, based on that, would it make any difference as opposed to, if we say we're approaching, does that mean that the state's going to pay attention to us and send help, or is it all?
So what I would say is, the better that we diagnose ourselves, the better the administration can improve and move us to the right.
Okay.
Get us proficient and advanced. While yes, it's a self-assessment for the AOE, it's really a self-assessment for ourselves, so that way we can make sure that, because all of these things, they may appear harmless, but they probably have a budgetary amount that needs to get attached to it too, as well as a human resource and time component. So the more that we know, if we're proficient, we just keep doing what we're doing. But if we're beginning and approaching, then we probably need to put some more time and more money to it, or reallocate resources so that we can move ourselves to proficient or advanced.
Okay.
Any comments about this? But this will be our homework, whether it'll be next meeting or whether it'll be in the first meeting of November. We will get to rate ourselves so that we can send that on to the AOE. Okay. Oh, question, did I hear somebody? Oh, okay. Advocacy. So the VSBA annual meeting is on October 23rd at 6 p.m. via Zoom. So if any of you are interested in going to that, you're more than welcome to do so. They will be voting on all the resolutions that people have put forth. Also, the VSBA VSA annual conference is October 29th and 30th in Burlington. It's at the Doubletree Hotel. It used to be at Lake Maury. It's very sad that it's moved to downtown Burlington.
Not even.
Probably.
I know that's true. It's not even.
Williston.
It's
No,
Williston.
it's South Burlington.
South Burlington.
South Burlington.
So, but anyway, so that is happening on October 29th and 30th. That's where I get to be your proxy. RNESU board update. We had our meeting last week on the 1st. The one thing that you will see coming back to you is the library materials policy that you approved through the consent agenda. We've realized as we were looking at it through a second view that nobody was really happy with it, and so we are doing some digging, and we will present that back to this board at a later date, and also to the Barstow board at a later date. Is there anything else that we did at the RNESU level that we need to tell them about? Barbara? Kevin?
Oh, there was the
Yep.
special education presentation that Brian gave.
That's
Just
true,
kinda-
yes. We had a beautiful presentation about special ed by Brian. So thank you, Brian, for that.
Wow, I've never been told it was beautiful.
Special.
And special, that's right.
No pun
Okay.
intended there. Sorry. It's late.
Do we have any other business for future consideration at this point? Okay, well, if you think of something, email me. And superintendent informational report.
Let me pull it up. Let's see. I listed some information for the redistricting committee. I also let folks know about the special education state report that was released a couple of weeks ago. So if you have the opportunity to at least look at the summary, there's some information that I think is really important for us to understand where we are as a state, because it also affects us locally. And so many of the things that we are trying to improve upon here are things that the rest of the state is dealing with as well. So if you get the opportunity, please review that. Just a reminder about the coffee and the library visits. We're starting our budget and faculty feedback faculty meetings. Today was our first one, but we'll visit every campus. The other thing that I did not list upon here, and then also please make sure that you review the wonderful photos that have been submitted to give you an idea of what's going on in our schools around the district. I added at the very last minute a news article from the Boston Globe about New England schools. The Agency of Education wrote a press release on Friday to address the issues raised by the article by Boston Globe. What the article is arguing is that New England schools, all of New England, are leaving our students behind due to some decisions that were made way back during No Child Left Behind. And so I would like for you guys to read it. Many of the issues that I believe you will come across are things that we have cited in our board meetings over the last year and a half. And so I'd love to have your take, whether it's at a board meeting or, just an email or anything like that. I'd love to get your take on it. We're going to be talking about it as an administrative team as well. And I know that the Agency of Education also has more things planned to respond to it. So,
Only questions for Renee?
Where's that article available?
It's at the bottom of the
it's at the bottom. It's one of the additional attachments.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Fernanda, so moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Leslie. All right, your I is by leaving. So, thank you.